Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast that is brought to you by fans for the fans, where the content is, as always, absolutely free. I believe this is episode 429. I could be stand corrected there, but that's what I believe. And tonight we're going to be chatting about Rangers being back from the international break. Of course, we're all excited to have a new manager. Oh no, sorry. So we'll be chatting about the sort of disastrous international break in terms of not having a new manager in, as well as looking ahead to the Dundee United game tomorrow, which hopefully will be a successful one for our interim manager, Stevie Smith. And joining me tonight, I'll bring in my guest in just a second, but before I do so, it would be remiss of me to not mention our podcast sponsors. And as always, we are delighted to be backed by Forrest Precision Engineering. If you have any interest in Forrest Precision Engineering or are in need of their services, please go on their website, which is www.forestprecisioneng.com. And if that is not your thing currently, they also have a fantastic lounge in the historic main stand in Ibrox, which you can contact the club directly at hospitality@rangers.co.uk to find out more about this fantastic and unique space. And before we get in, just to remind you, we're live on YouTube tonight, and the podcast will also be available on all of your usual Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, Stitch, all the rest of those, in the coming days. But joining me tonight is Mr. Scott Bradley. We'll be delving into all things. Scott, how are you?
I'm very well, mate. I'm very well, apart from Rangers trying to ruin things, but I'm doing good, mate. How are you, Ben?
I am good. Somewhat similar to yourself, really, in that regard. But yeah, I mean, we should be well used to Rangers trying to ruin things by now after this last few years. But yes, Scott. So we'll delve in there. We'll touch on the game in a little bit. But firstly, Russell Martin was sacked the evening of the Falkirk game. We had 2 weeks ahead of us with an international break. It didn't even cross my mind for a second that we would be going into this game with an interim manager. It's my opinion is disastrous. What about you?
I think the whole entire process has been a total car crash. I think Rangers have totally embarrassed themselves. So they have. Because as we all know, Martin had to go. He should have been sacked after the Club Brugge game. The board held on to him. And they've just made error after error. They've not got anything right. And also, we'll come on to Kevin Thelwell quite shortly. But obviously, after Martin got sacked, they had a full international break to get someone in. And the first week of that international break, I think for the first time in a long time, the Rangers support were energised. They were optimistic because we all thought Steven Gerrard was going to be returning. And I know you're not on X-Ben, right? But I think you might have heard that I'm a big Stevie G fan. So I was desperate for him to come back, and I had my heart set on it back in May. Didn't happen. And I said to myself this time round, right, I'm not going to do the same thing. And guess what? I did. So I was the whole week getting so excited. I was like, this is going to happen. Then obviously our board made a total arse of themselves, right, by making a big song and dance about the fact that they're going to be speaking to Steven Gerrard. Gerrard obviously flew into London. Talks went very well. For the first time in a while, we're thinking, right, it's going to happen. It's a done deal. Gerrard's going to return. And I remember I was out in partaking the Saturday. I was having a great time. Good few drinks with my friend and that. And news came out. Boom. Steven Gerrard rejects Rangers for the second time. Phone was just blowing up like crazy. I was surprised but not surprised. And yeah, it was a total farce. It was so embarrassing. And like, that's one thing the board had to get right, to galvanise the support and get the fans back on side, and that was to appoint Steven Gerrard. It was overwhelming, Ben. That's who the fans wanted. There was just probably a very small minority that didn't want him back because of petty reasons. Oh, he left us, he walked out, blah, blah, blah. One trophy in 9, all that nonsense. But Steven Gerrard was the perfect, he would have been the perfect appointment because, for one, obviously, Rangers have been lacking standards for a long, long time. Gerrard has high standards. He has that strong winning mentality. He gets Rangers to a T. And one thing as well that people don't really speak about as much, he has a fantastic record against Celtic. He knows how to beat Celtic. And if I remember right, the last Old Firm game that he lost was a game he should have never lost, and that was a League Cup final. where obviously Rangers battered Celtic that game. Celtic scored an
Julian was
offside.
offside.
Yeah, Rangers missed a penalty. It was robbery. So the board made a total arse of themselves, and obviously we can speak about the reasons why Gerrard never took the job on. A lot of people saying it's tax, utter nonsense. See if it's to do with tax, why would you fly all the way from the Middle East to
No.
London? Nonsense, right? The reason that he never took it, right, from what I've heard, and I think you've probably heard it as well, is because he didn't like the structure of the club. He didn't want to be referred to as a head coach. He wasn't going to get a final say in transfers, and he didn't want to work with Kevin Thelwell. And the thing that mind blows me, Ben, is the fact that the board didn't actually really trust Gerrard to have free reign in the market, because look how good he was before. Look at the gems that he brought in. He obviously brought in Alan McGregor. He brought in Connor Goldson, Helander, Barisic, Glenn Kamara, Joe Aribo, Ryan Kent. Like, just that's just to name a few off the top of my head. Yanis Hadji. Like, he brought in some real good... Calvin Bassey, who we sold for, I think, 22, 24 million pounds. Gerrard has a good eye for a player. And it's baffling to me how the board thought, right, we're going to side with Kevin Thelwell instead of Steven Gerrard, who the fans want. And then they messed that up completely. They messed it up so badly. And to be honest with you, Ben, I am scunnered with Rangers right now. Totally and utterly scunnered. I'm fed up. I'm just so fed up. Like, and you know me, I'm a very positive, outgoing guy. I try to be as optimistic when it comes to my club. Right now, I have no enthusiasm at all. And obviously, we'll get into the stuff about Muscat, and I've got interesting thoughts about that. But yeah, Rangers are a mess right now. And the 49ers had high hopes when they came in. I really thought they were going to do something special. And they've just got every decision wrong. The appointment of Russell Martin, how they delegated that to Thelwell and Stewart. The fact they kept Russell Martin on for far too long. As I said, he should have been gone after the Club Brugge game. We wasted a whole month. Now Rangers are 9 points behind Celtic, 11 behind Hearts. And bear in mind, by the way, this is a very poor Celtic team. And they're undefeated in the league. Just shows you how bad things are at this moment in time. And of course, the whole managerial situation. When you look at Sean Dyche, he came out last week, said he's not interested. Gerrard obviously knocked us back for the second time. Then Danny Rowe, say what you want about that whole situation. I didn't want Danny Rowe, but he obviously withdrew from the process. It's like Rangers are meant to be a big club, and we're acting like a small club. It's pathetic.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna question you. So we'll stick to Gerrard just to start with. We'll stick with Gerrard, and I've a few points on it. And I sort of would challenge what you said there in terms of I realise that there are some that are not wanting for petty reasons. Now, I'll put my cards on the table here. There was three managers that I would wanted ahead of Steven Gerrard, and Muscat is one of them. Stephen Robinson is the other, and McInnes. Although I can see that McInnes is probably not gettable now, considering he's only just started at Hearts, etc. But I would question the thing about it being petty reasons. I mean, for me, Gerrard will always go down as a legend in terms of winning that important title, but he hasn't succeeded since, in my opinion. And secondly, the 1-9 I think is unfair to a point. I think that he should have won more. I think that there are certainly in the early days I wasn't expecting him to win things because what he walked into was not a winning team and was not a winning club, and credit is deservedly going to go to him for building a winning team. However, that season that we did win the league, we should have won treble. There's no doubt, and we walked away with one trophy. So I wouldn't have been heartbroken if Steven Gerrard had come in. I would have got behind him, and I could have seen why he's come back in, and I could have seen why we've gone for him from sort of a leadership point of view. But see what you said there also about how he wouldn't. I agree with you completely that it's not tax reasons because he wouldn't have come over. You're right. But he came over knowing what the structure was in place in the club. So what was he expecting, for us to just change the entire structure just for him? I mean, he isn't Walter Smith. He isn't, he hasn't earned that for me.
I know what you're saying, right? But see, when you look over the years, Rangers have always had managers, not head coaches, right? And the board, as I said just there, about how they made a big song and dance about, right, we're having negotiations with Steven Gerrard, right? And they were so convinced that they were going to get him. And I've been saying it like for the past week or so, right? He was the number one choice for most of the fans, in my opinion, right? Obviously, maybe not for you, but the majority wanted him back because,
yeah,
maybe nostalgia reasons, whatever. But the last time Rangers were a proper threat and they were a proper winning team, if you know what I'm saying, where they were just dominating teams left, right, and centre, was under Steven Gerrard. So for me, I've been saying for the past week that the Rangers board should have bent over backwards to give Steven Gerrard what he wanted, because he's got a proven track record. Yes, of course, he should have won more. I agree with that. But he won the big one, and that's what he was when he came into Rangers. That's what his task was: come in, stop them doing 10 in a row, and win us a league title. He achieved that. He ticked that box. And the only real negative thing you can really say about Gerrard's tenure is the fact that he should have won more. Should have won more trophies. He'll know that himself. That's why he did kind of drop a wee subtle hint in that Rio Ferdinand interview, talking about, I've got unfinished business, and obviously that was a clear reference to us. No, but I feel as though the Rangers board should have realised, right, this structure that we've got in place. Rangers have never really had something like that before. It's always been a manager. Can you remember last time Rangers had a head coach? I can't.
No.
So the Rangers board, because they're meant to be some serious businessmen, right, and I'm not doubting that, but the way they're handling the footballing situation has been horrendous. Where, for example, Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart, they've been a disaster. The fans cannot stand them. Kevin Thelwell, he should have been sacked right after Russell Martin. He should have went with him, right? So these two get, obviously, Preg Marati and Andrew Kavanagh should have been like, you know what, right? Obviously, they're the ones spearheading this managerial search, by the way. Thelwell and Stewart are not involved. So they're like, okay, right, we made a mistake here, right? Maybe this structure isn't working. It's never worked for Rangers in the past. So let's just make a change. We changed the manager with Martin. That didn't work. So let's change the structure. Steven Gerrard made it clear what he wanted. Guys, obviously a big name. And commercially as well, these guys are American, right? See, when it comes to a commercial standpoint, Gerrard is box office for them. So they should have been like, right, we need to get this over the line. We need to give Gerrard whatever he wants, because obviously Gerrard's, as I said, he's got a track record of being a success at Rangers. One trophy, but it was a big one. So it just baffles me how the Rangers board didn't want to just rip up the whole thing and give Gerrard what he wanted, because Gerrard would have delivered and he would have got this team back in track, and he most certainly would have ousted out the losers within that squad, and he would have brought back that winning mentality, because right now, Ben, this structure at the club just is not working. And it's mind blowing to me where the board were like, right, you know what, we're going to take Kevin Thelwell's side, who's done nothing. Every big decision he's made he's got wrong. But we're just going to let a superstar like Steven Gerrard just walk away. We're just going to embarrass ourselves yet again, because that's the second time in about 5 months or so that Gerrard's knocked us back. It's not a good look at all for Rangers. And
I think.
Sorry, you go. Sorry, you go, Ben. You just kind of cut out there.
Just losing you a wee bit here. Yep. No, I was just going to say, I think the structure. I was just going to say that I think. Are you getting me now, Scott?
It's breaking up a bit still, mate. It's still breaking up a bit.
With this Wi-Fi.
There's no worries. That's what happens, folks, when you do a live show.
If you can hear me, just talk to the viewers here for a second while I'm trying to see if you can get this Wi-Fi.
All good. It's went again. Technical difficulties, folks. That's what happens when you do a live show. It just happens. Well, obviously nothing we can do about it. Are we still on air? Still on air? All right, no worries. I've just wondered there. No worries.
Are you hearing me now, Scott?
He's away. I know. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But guys, basically just what I was saying there in terms of what's been happening with the board and whatnot. It has just been total amateur hour from start to finish, and I've got nothing right.
That's me back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Happy days. Yep.
Right, there we go,
No,
guys.
sorry, but apologies there for everybody watching and listening. Yeah, internet isn't wonderful here at the moment, but anyway, hopefully it stays on now. I was just going to say, I think ideally I would have a manager over this structure, but I do think that the structure can work. It's not the structure that's the problem for me; it's the personnel. If we put a good sporting director in there and we have a good manager, obviously the manager wasn't up. Sorry, the head coach wasn't up to scratch. Um, we've changed that now. For you, you've already made it clear that Felwell has to go. In your opinion, I've heard the talk of, oh, he's only in the job, he's not been in long enough. But I mean, if that doesn't work for a manager, to me, it doesn't work for a sporting director. I can forgive one or two mistakes, but every decision that he's made at this point, the signings at this point, I haven't written them all off, and I'm not judging them all immediately, but they don't look to be value for money, and that's probably being polite. On top of his managerial appointment being wrong, and then this, although he's probably not spearheading it, as you've said, he is certainly responsible for what we're doing at the moment. So for you, is there any way back for Thelwell?
No, there's not. There's
Yeah.
none at all, to be honest, Ben. The damage is done. He should have been sacked along with Russell Martin. Well, obviously, you talk about the signings, Jermiti, like why? £8 million for Jermiti. Who knows? He might be a superstar, Ben, but he might be a total dud. I've not seen
But
anything.
how can you justify that? How can you base that value on him? You
I
just
know.
can't. And the fact that he made the mistake of bringing him to Everton for more money didn't work out there, and he's then spent. I mean, I'm wondering, does he own 10% of him or something?
Yeah, mate, £8 million on Jermiti, who's not scored a goal in about 2 years. Like, do you know what makes me even more? It just makes me so infuriated because, like, we had Lauren Shanklin in the summer, who was a free agent. It was like a come get me play. Rangers, this is your chance. We didn't go for him. And obviously he's backfiring again for Hearts. It's
Even the young boy at Hibs, that was coming in, and then he didn't like the look of him and sort of cancelled that. Totally, his name's escaping me now.
mm,
That from Dundee that went to Hibs. No,
yeah.
not Kieran Boy. Mulligan.
Yeah.
I liked him last season. I thought he was a good player. He's the type of player that we should be going after, the profile wise, young. Even, you look at Cameron, who's allegedly wasn't too impressed with, too enamored with. And he, for me, has been one of the plus points of this season. I'm not saying he's the answer or wonderful, but he's certainly, we need more players like that around the squad, and he doesn't seem to notice that or respect that or respect our game enough to notice these players. And this is the game he's working in.
Yeah, and just to bring this up as well, like Chris Boyd made a fantastic point during the week on Sky Sports. I done an article on it where Boyd was talking about how Rangers for a long, long time have had a snobbery towards Scottish players and Scottish managers. And it's crazy to think, Ben, the last time Rangers had a permanent Scottish manager in place was 2014, and that was Alan McCoist. I mean, you look at the Rangers, they're lacking that real core Scottish group within the squad, and that's Rangers have lost their identity, and they have done for a long time, and it's sad to see. And say what you want about Barry Ferguson, right? His tenure, was it great? No. Was it a disaster? No. But one thing about him is that he does get Rangers, and he did mention if he was to get the job, he would bring back that kind of that core Scottish identity back to the squad that's been lacking for a long, long time now. Um, but yeah, the signings, so like my opinion on it is that a lot of people saying the recruitment's been a disaster, car crash. I don't think so. I think Rangers have brought in. This is only real positive. I can really say a big positive, but this is only like slight positive we can really take so far since the 49ers have came in, is they have backed the team. Obviously backed the wrong guy, but they've backed. They've showed that they're willing to back the team, right?
Yeah.
And the signings that Rangers have made, they're not all that bad. I feel as though some of them are good individual players, but I just feel as though they were getting ruined under Russell Martin and their coaching. I think one player who is a prime example of this is Oliver Antman. First game against Pilsen, we were like, oh my God, this guy's a superstar. Great going forward, physically domineering, good delivery with the ball, always looks a threat in that right hand side. Ever since that game, ever since Russell Martin got hold of him, looks like a totally different player. And I don't care what anyone says, right? I'm going to die on this hill. I do believe, right, Joe Rothwell will become a good player for Rangers. Because I've watched a lot of
I
Joe
do too.
Rothwell at Leeds, and I've spoken to a lot of Southampton fans, a lot of Leeds fans. I've not heard one of them say a bad thing about Joe Rothwell because he was brilliant for Leeds last year. And the Leeds fans that I'd spoken to, they said they actually wanted him to stay for the Premiership. You don't just become a bad player overnight. And I will admit, Rothwell's had a terrible start, but I don't think he's playing in his natural position. And he'll be determined more than anyone to obviously prove people wrong because he's had a tough start, right? And I think he'll know himself, right? I need to settle in quicker, else I'm back down south again. I'm going to get ousted out. And obviously with Muscat coming in, who is a demanding coach, which we will get to, like some of these players will know that they'll need to up their game because Muscat. Obviously I'll get into my thoughts about that quite soon. Say what you want about Muscat, he will be very demanding and he will take no nonsense. And he's not going to be a softie like Russell Martin, shall we say, who wants to talk about feelings, anxiety, and all this utter garbage, right? Can you imagine Walter Smith listening to that crap from Russell Martin? Like, yeah, the players they're anxious, they're really scared to get on the ball. Like, yeah, I can rant about Martin all day, mate. But I don't think the recruitment's really been all that bad. I think once Rangers, if it is Muscat or whoever, right? Hopefully Muscat does well, but whoever does come in, they can get the best out of these players. Because look at Gassama, he has showed all the signs that he can be a real top player for Rangers. And yeah, defensively there are some questions there. Cornelius looks like a player, so he does. I'm really excited about him. But yeah, it's the fact that Rangers have spent, I think it was like 30 odd million or so in the summer, a lot of money, most spent since Dick Advocate, and yeah, it's like time will tell how good they will actually be. So now is the time to really, really judge them when a proper manager comes in because Russell Martin, he'll go down as the worst manager in Rangers history, and that takes some doing to be worse than Michael Beale. It really does. Like 5 wins in 17 games. I don't know where that guy goes from here. He is a fraud. Like, and it just makes you wonder, Ben, the fact that the board, Thelwell and Stewart, interviewed this guy 7 times. 7 times, right? And they were wowed by his BS, hipster presentation about football, saying that he's going to play like Pep Guardiola, all this kind of thing. Utter nonsense. So that's my problem with hipster coaches, mate. I don't want any more hipsters in, XG loving managers, stat lovers.
Yeah.
No, I want a proper manager in place. Like that's why I wanted Gerrard. My top three, mate, was Gerrard, Lampard, McInnes. And ever since Gerrard knocked us back, the only one I wanted was McInnes. I would love Lampard. He actually said today in his presser that he got asked about Rangers and he said, "Well, I love Rangers Football Club. I grew up loving Rangers Football Club, but the stuff with me, like with the job, it's just all rumours." And we should have got Lampard in 2 years ago, Ben. We should have got Lampard in 2 years ago, and I've always rated him as a manager. But yeah, as I was saying earlier on, I'm just fed up with Rangers. I'm so disenchanted, and I hate being negative, but I just can't help but be negative because the way Rangers handled that whole managerial process was utterly embarrassing. And yeah, Rangers are a small club right now, and I've never thought they're acting like a small club right now,
Yeah.
and it's pathetic.
Yeah, no, sadly, it's very hard to disagree with you on that. Last point, sort of to tie in with Gerard, and I know you're a big fan, and I know that you hope this isn't the case, but do you feel, a lot of the talk with McInnes was linked from some people, and it's not something that I necessarily agreed with, but the talk about him having rejected us.
I think he's gone again, but I think I can understand what his question is. Maybe I'll answer it. Ben, I think you're just cutting up a bit there again.
Oh, for sure, but haven't rejected us in the past. Now, Stephen Gerrard, as you've said yourself, has rejected.
Yeah, sorry, folks, more technical issues, but I think I can get what Ben is saying here. Ben, I think I've got the gist of your question anyway.
Yeah.
So, obviously, Derek McInnes, obviously, he knocked us back 8 years ago, and I can see why he knocked us back because Rangers were obviously at that moment in time the biggest mess in Premiership history. Well, in our time in the Premiership, that was the biggest mess we've been in. Apart from administration, of course, of course.
Yeah.
So McInnes, there's a lot of Rangers fans that have that fear or had that fear that McInnes might knock us back again. But I'm in that mindset where it's like, you know what, Rangers have took so many L's as of late. Rangers have embarrassed themselves that much. You're like, you know what, if they want McInnes, you don't ask, you don't get, just go for it. Right? You're still Rangers at the end of the day. And you're not like the same team that you were 8 years ago, where McInnes was getting messed about left, right, and centre. And you can tell in some of his interviews, like back then when he was Aberdeen manager, he was getting scunnered by the whole thing because Rangers were just taking the absolute mickey with it all. But the thing is, obviously, there was some reports last week that McInnes would be open to speaking to Rangers, and I think that would have been the case because it's a totally different setup now. So do I think Rangers? No, sorry. Do I think McInnes would have not backed Rangers again? Who knows? Who knows really?
Sorry, I was trying to tie it in there to Gerard because I broke up when I was saying it, but he's talked us back twice, as you've said there. Do you think the door remains open for him in the future, or you've knocked Rangers back twice? I mean, for me, if Stephen Gerrard was, I hope if it's Kevin Muscat that comes in, I hope he's in for a long time and is successful. But if Stephen Gerrard is to come in to Rangers again in the future, I feel like he needs to do something else managerially in between to show the hunger, to show that he can still do it. But for you, is the door still open?
Me personally, yes. And honestly, I don't think Gerrard will go to another club. I think his next job in football, it will be Rangers if that was to happen again, because he did say in that Rio Ferdinand interview he wants to go to a club that's got the same mindset as him, that wants to win things. Where else can you see him going after what happened with Villa? That was a car crash, right? So what happened in Saudi, I'm not really going to judge that. He was there for a payday, right? Is what it is.
Yeah.
But just having one real bad managerial spell doesn't make you a bad manager. Because I think Gerrard is a good manager. But for me personally, I still would like to see him come back in the future. I can see why a lot of fans don't, because he's knocked us back twice. But Gerrard wanted to come back, but the structure just wasn't right for him. And that's maybe more so on the club. I don't really actually blame him too much for knocking us back, because, as I said earlier on, the Rangers board should have been bending over backwards to give Steven Gerrard exactly what he wanted, and they failed to do that. They failed to sell the vision to him. So yeah, for me, the door would always be open.
Okay.
Yeah, but after Gerrard, I wanted McInnes, because the reason I wanted McInnes was because McInnes gets Rangers. He knows what's required. He's been a success at Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, flying my hearts right now, top of the league, unbeaten.
Yeah.
He knows Scottish football inside out. He's the best Scottish manager, best Scottish manager in Scottish football. He's just staring us right in the face. He's a safe pair of hands. He won't be a risk. You know what you're going to get with him. But obviously with Kevin Muscat, I might be in the minority, but I think that's a big gamble for me, Ben. I'm not a fan of this appointment at all, and that might sound controversial, but I just can't get behind that. I've got real concerns about it.
And go ahead, elaborate on those concerns. Yeah, for me, I'm excited about it. I think it's, other than I would have gone for Stephen Robinson or McInnes. McInnes probably not gettable, so I'd have gone Stephen Robinson, because I think we need somebody that can win in Scotland and has proven that they can win in Scotland, and he can set up a team to compete in Scotland, and that makes sense. But Muscat would have been my next choice. I like the mentality. I like the style of play, and I think also, given the rumours that Neil McCann's going to come in with him, I like that as well, because we talked about Russell Martin not getting Rangers, not understanding it. Well, Neil McCann does and will.
But just before I go into my thoughts on Muscat, Stephen Robinson, see, last week, I would have been turning my nose up at that, be like, nah, not because he's a bad manager, because I was like, going from St Mirren to Rangers, big jump. But now, I'm like, you know what? With the options out there, I'll be like, yeah, why not? Go for Stephen Robinson. But in terms of Muscat, though, I've never really understood the fanfare surrounding Kevin Muscat, and the reason being is, like, everyone talks about, yeah, look at all the trophies he's won. I'm like, with the greatest respect, look where he's won them: China, Japan, Australia. They're no good leagues. The standards.
Have to beat what's in front of you.
I know, but still, though, like, obviously had a crack in Europe. Not saying this defines his whole ability as a manager, but it didn't work out well at all, right? But I'm just looking at what he done, obviously, in Asia, and I'm just like, that doesn't really excite me. They're not great leagues, right? And also as well, if he was such a big hit, how come no other club has really came for him, right? And we're obviously going for him now because it's like the best out of a bad bunch, right? Because no one else wants a job. They both had their eyes set on Gerrard, and they're like, okay, who else is out there? No one else wants to touch this job because it's a poison chalice. Oh, what's Kevin up to? Yeah, go for him. And also as well, people keep buying on, but oh yeah, this is, I don't, it can be like Angela, like there's no guarantee he's going to be like Postecoglou, like none at all. And I just like, and that's why, you know as well, like let's be honest about it, Ben, right? The only reason, one of the main reasons why we're only going for Kevin Muscat is because it worked out for Postecoglou in Scotland, right? See, if Postecoglou never came to Scotland and was a success, do you think Rangers would be touching Kevin Muscat right now? Absolutely not. No chance, right? No. So Rangers are lost for ideas because we're totally clueless right from the top. They're like, okay, it worked for Celtic with Ange. Let's just go get Muscat, right? And we talk about his style of play as well, right? We're in this position right now where his style of play is going to take time to implement. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, it sounds exciting on paper. So did Russell Martin's. And look how that turned out, right? And obviously, when you look at the amount of goals that his teams concede, that's a big concern for me as well, right? So another thing, this is like one of the major ones. The fact he's not going to be in charge until after the 22nd of November. And the next few weeks, Ben, are crucial. The next few weeks are season defining for Rangers, right? And if Rangers are meant to be a big club, right, why are we not saying, right, if you want the job, come get it now. Take it or leave it. Look at Man United with Ruben Amorim. He wanted to stay to the end of the season with Sporting. But United said, because they're a big club, they're like, no, listen, right, it sounds honourable that you want to do that, but here, we're Man United, right? We're not waiting for you. We've got a lot of things that we want to achieve this season. You take the job now or you're not getting it at all. That's what Rangers should have done with Kevin Muscat. But no, Rangers are acting like a small club. Rangers are acting like a tin pot club. And they're like, yeah, you just finish your season out in China. You just do that. Whilst we've got some massive games coming up, like big league games, some big European games, massive game in the Cup against Celtic. Rangers' season could be over in the next few weeks, Ben, while we wait for him to finish up in China. I don't like that. The way Rangers are acting it's beyond embarrassing, and it's just such a weak mentality from top to bottom at the club right now. I cannot stand it.
But if our season is over in a few weeks, it's not because of this, it's because of what's come before. For me, I'm torn, to be honest with you, because there is a big part of me that thinks the same as you, but there's also a part of me that does respect the fact that he doesn't want to, because one of the big things about when Gerrard left was leaving us when we were, 3 days away from a cup semi-final and stuff like that. I didn't like that, and I lost respect for him for that. I understand you have to take an opportunity when it's there in front of you, but at the same time, I think you owe the fans, you owe the club a little bit better than that. And I can understand if this was, if they were mid-table or whatever. I suppose if they were mid-table, he wouldn't be getting the Rangers job. But at the same time, if they weren't at the very end of their season and about to win the league, probably, then I think he would be here in a heartbeat. And I can sort of understand it, but it does also frustrate me. I think if it was left to go with Stevie Smith in, and this isn't a dig at Stevie Smith by any way, but someone as inexperienced as him at this level, then I'd be more concerned. But I think with the likes of Neil McCann, who's been in at the club last season, knows the players, I think it can make sense. If it was for a couple of weeks, I'd be more okay with it. But it is, as you say, it's that cup semi-final and things like that that are a big deal. But he's doing the right thing by his club, which I would hope in some ways shows the character of the man and shows how he will treat us as well. But yeah, there's also that part of me that's wrestling with it and saying if Rangers Football Club comes calling, you pack your bags and you get on that flight. So it's a tough one, and I also sort of think if he is who we've identified now as the best candidate for this job, then he is worth the wait, because yes, our season could peter out in terms of Europe, but I think for me it's done. For me, the league is done, and the League Cup. Okay, we obviously want to win it. We want to beat them in the semi-final, but the League Cup, at the end of the day, even if it all goes well and we win it, it doesn't define our season. It won't define our club because it's the League Cup. That's the problem. That's Clement lived off a League Cup that he basically he won the final and maybe the semi-final, if I'm correct, but it was someone else's work to get them to that point. So I would rather wait a little bit for the correct one than make a mistake again.
So what you said there about how you think the season's done, I disagree with that. The reason being is because, see, if this was a good Celtic team, Ben, I would be like, yeah, it's done. But Celtic are crap, right? And we all know Hearts are going to fade away because Celtic, this is what makes it even more frustrating. Celtic are a poor side. Their fans are so disconnected as well. I cannot recall my lifetime, Ben, where both sets of Old Firm fans are so angry and disconnected with the clubs. It's surreal. And I can't remember where both sides are this bad as well. Just unfortunately for us, we're worse. So
I can't see there being a 9 point swing as poor as they are, primarily because we're not going to win every game. That group of players right now, especially with how low the confidence is not going to go on a 20-game winning run, and that's what's going to require. Because Celtic will drop points, I have no doubt about that. But I don't have the confidence that we're going to capitalise when they do.
But that's the thing as well. But like stranger things have happened. That's what gives me confidence in the sense of like this is when I'm trying to be optimistic, and I'm not just saying it to sound delusional. Where I'm looking at the standard of SPFL right now, and it's not great at all. Where like Celtic are a free hit. I can obviously, if Rangers, when it comes to that cup semi-final, I could see Rangers beating Celtic because that Old Firm game, obviously at the end of August, it was the worst Old Firm game that we've probably ever watched.
Yeah.
Like, it was a game between two sides that are just so poor, and Celtic fans, they know themselves that they're rubbish. The only reason they're in this position right now is because we're so bad. So this is why I think the season can still be salvaged, is because the standard of SPFL is poor and Celtic are poor, and this is all it takes, Ben. Celtic to lose one game, right? Their fans are on knife edge right now. They're looking for any excuse to get the shirts out again, mate. Like, they're looking for any excuse. So once they get a bad result, they're very lucky the other way against Motherwell. Some of my Celtic pals are there and they were like, we got away with that big time. So they're going to lose games, they're going to drop points. But obviously we just need to get our stuff together, and that's why it goes back to Muscat. Right, okay, I don't want Muscat, but if he's going to be the man, so be it. I'll get behind him. I want him to prove me wrong. I really do. I'd love nothing more, right? But if he's going to be the guy, he needs to be in the door right now, because we're Rangers Football Club, and as you said, when Rangers come calling, you jump ship. Like, you can say what you want about David Murray, right? Obviously his legacy's tainted or whatever. But see if David Murray was in charge and some guy said to him, "Here, listen, I need to finish this season off. Is that all right?" But like, no, F off. No, if you want the job, you're taking it now. So that's the thing. Rangers have lost their identity. They've lost the standards. We're getting mugged off left, right, and centre. We're not an attractive job, and it's crazy to say. People look at that Rangers job and like, oh no, thank you. Like Sean Dyche, like 2 days after Martin got the boot, he was like, I'm not interested. He had to leak out in the media, tell about the media, I'm not interested. Like, it's baffling. So I still think this season could be salvaged.
Okay.
Also, just what you said about Stevie Smith as well. Like, I wish him all the best for tomorrow. But I would much rather it be Muscat in the door as soon as possible, because Neil McCann, I think, is a good coach. He is. But as we all know, Ben, there's a big difference from being a coach and a manager. Prime example, Michael Beale, very good coach, not a manager in a million years. And when you look at Neil McCann as a manager, not very good. Didn't do well at Dundee, didn't do well at Inverness. That's another big risk. So I don't know why Rangers need to be like taking all these big risks when the season can still be salvaged. Rangers can still win things. Rangers can still get back in the title race. There's still so much to play for, but we're just dilly-dallying about, and we've just wasted 2 weeks. When there was what was it they said after we sacked Martin? There's going to be a strong and rigorous process to get the next manager in. There wasn't a rigorous process. Their shortlist was Steven Gerrard. That went tits up, excuse my French. That went tits up, and then they're like, okay, right, what do we do now? Let's get a shortlist. Kevin Muscat, McInnes, Danny Rowe, just throwing names out there. It's pathetic.
Okay. Last couple of points before we sort of move on to the game itself. On the season, then you're saying the season is salvageable, which I very much hope you're right. And it's salvageable to a point for me where I think we could potentially, with a manager getting in, we could win a Scottish Cup. But I can't see us win the league. But anyway, what constitutes success for you? From let's say Kevin Muscat is in okay, let's say he's in the 22nd of November. Then what constitutes success for him between now and then?
I would say win the league. You know, I'm being so serious about this. Like Ben, like as I said, like if Celtic were a good side, I'd be like, nah, it's done. If this was the Postecoglou side from his last season, the treble winning one, I'd be like, nah, we've got no
Yeah.
chance. But they're crap. They're poor, and they can easily be caught. And Hearts right now, they're obviously going through the honeymoon phase. They'll fade away. So yeah, I still think Rangers can win this league and a cup double. I see if Rangers were to win a cup double, a League Cup and a Scottish Cup. Okay, fine, decent considering the
If he
situation.
wins the Scottish Cup, if he wins the Scottish Cup and he closes the gap to 3 points, is that successful
I would
for a
say
starting point?
I wouldn't say a success, but it wouldn't be a disaster. It wouldn't be a
Okay.
complete disaster. But if it's a cup double, League Cup, Scottish Cup, fine. You can tolerate that. You'd be like, okay, considering circumstances with Martin and whatnot, you'd be like, okay, that's fine. But we need to win the league next season. But for me, what I would class as that as a success is winning the league, and that can still be done in my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, final question, as I said before we go on to the game. Do you talked about the job not being as attractive or whatever because of the state of the club and stuff. You know, while I'm not blaming us, what level do the fans do the fans play within that? In terms of, and this isn't the whole fans, and I'm not coming for the fans, but what I wanted to ask was basically like we heard Danny Rule was coming in, and whether you think he's good or he's not good or whatever. I mean, on social media, there's people with before the guy's even confirmed or anything. There's those banners with the red cross across his face. I mean, that to me is just nuts. Does that put off whether I'm not saying we want the Danny Rule, but does that put off other people? Like just the fact that the fans are so reactionary at this minute in time, and I get where it's coming from, I do, but like we're judging somebody, and let's be honest, none of us really know a whole lot about Sheffield Wednesday or about Danny Rule, whether he could have been, he's highly regarded as a coach, so it wasn't totally ridiculous the idea of him being a manager, but for some it was the end of the world. It was Martin Mark II, and he was almost judged as if he was Russell Martinicky, and I don't think that was fair. But I worry about what it does to the reputation of the fans and to how it appeals to other managers.
No, you obviously pose a fantastic question there, Ben. Like, see any managers out there that are intimidated by faceless losers on Twitter, you're no cut out for the job. Like,
Yeah, fair.
right, you're not cut out for the job if you're intimidated by faceless losers that don't have anything going on in their life where they just hide behind fake accounts and abuse people all day long. So if they're intimidated by that, then yeah, you're no cut out for the job, in my opinion. But like when it comes to Danny Rowe, I think the reason I think a lot of people are like, no, 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 just writing him off straight away because a lot of the fan base and a lot of fan base may say some very silly things and do silly things. But I can see why a lot of them are like, no, they've got their guard up with Danny Rowe because they just see him as another Russell Martin 2.0. Like, obviously, young coach, similar style of play, like one of these hipsters that's obsessed with XG, stats, all this kind of thing. And he just reeks of another project manager. And yeah, what he done at Sheffield Wednesday, considering circumstances there, kept him up. Then obviously, you look at the situation right now, it's very sad to see what's going on at that club at this moment in time. And financial ruins. But yeah, he done well in that aspect. But see, just because you kept Sheffield Wednesday up, that's not enough for you to get the Rangers job. He didn't have the CV to warrant it at all. So I can see why the fans were against it. I was against it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the whole situation was a mess. Like the whole process of trying to get another manager in was a riot. Where even Danny Rowe even said, like, you might have got a heads up about Muscat, whatever, who knows, right? But the fact he was like, right, just from a PR perspective, it's not a good look for Rangers. Where he was like, yeah, I'm withdrawn, guys. So it just shows you the Rangers board, they didn't even have their minds made up because it does look like Muscat. But even the other night, they were like, oh, is it going to be Danny Rowe, Kim Muscat? Don't know. Like, we're just going to keep Danny Rowe on standby. Horrible look for what is meant to be a big club. But I don't think the way the fan base is puts off people. In my opinion, right, I think that the fans gave Russell Martin a chance. A lot of people are saying, yeah, the fans are booing at half time, the club brewed friendly. Who cares, right? The fans were willing to give him a chance. And I remember
I agree.
the Panathinaikos game, the one away from home, right? When Martin, we got through, and then Martin went over to the fans. He was like fist pumping and all that. Fans were loving him, right? So the fans were like, you know what? Martin wasn't my first choice. We didn't want him, but he's here now. Let's get behind him. That was my mindset. I think that was your mindset as well. But we're like, you
Yeah.
know, he's here now. Let's get behind him. And I feel as though Rangers fans had a lot of patience with Russell Martin. We really, really did. But there was nothing there for us, Ben, to cling on to. There was nothing. Rangers were getting worse and worse game by game. There was no positives to take. Rangers were so wide open at the back. Rangers were not creating anything at all. And I'm not saying this for hyperbolic effect. That was like the Russell Martin style of football was hands down the worst I've ever witnessed. It was brutal. At least with Clement and even Beale, Rangers would create chances. Under Martin, we would never do that. It was a chore. It was such a chore. And then it just got to the stage where it was beyond toxic, where the fans were like, you know what, Martin GTF. And it just says it all, really, where when Rangers scored that last minute winner against Livingston, 20 seconds later, Martin GTF, Martin GTF. And don't get me wrong, on a human level, there was times where I felt bad for Martin, but he didn't help himself. He did not help himself, where he would come out, he would be so arrogant. He would never take any accountability. And I've been in plenty of pressers with him, and he's not, he never really came across as a likable guy.
Yeah.
And as I was saying earlier on, I have no idea where he goes from here. But just to wrap up on your question, I still believe obviously the Rangers' job, we're meant to be a big club, right? But I don't think the fans put off managers, because if you do well here, the fans will adore you. The fans will treat you like a god. So I don't think the fan base is toxic. It's the reason the fan base is the reason the fans are so angry right now is because they've got every reason to be angry, because
absolutely,
they've been getting mugged off for far too long now, and we've been spending so much money week in, week out, and we're not getting any reward for it. 3 trophies in the past God knows how many years. It is a real shame about the state that our club's in right now. And with Kevin Muscat, if he doesn't hit the ground running, and if he's struggling, and if Rangers start to fall behind, the pitchforks are going to be out for him as well. Because the fan base have had enough now. Obviously, look at that European game against Genk. I think it was like 38,000 fans there. Unbelievable. I think that was the lowest attended European game since Rangers got back up to the Premiership. And yeah, it just sums up where the Rangers fans are feeling, what they're feeling like right now, and they're scunnered. They just want what's best for the club, and they've put up with so much over the last 13 years, from administration, demotion, and it's not like Rangers fans are asking for a whole lot. We just want a team to compete, a team that we can be proud of, a team that we can enjoy watching. That's it.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I can't disagree with that. As we begin to sort of wrap up here, we'll touch on the actual game for tomorrow. Before my internet goes dodgy again here, we'll talk about the game. So for me, the back four, most of the back four picks itself. What I'll be interested in your thoughts on left back. You talked about Cornelius being a player that you liked. Do you like him as a left back or a centre back?
I actually prefer him at centre half, but tomorrow I would like to try him out at left back. To be honest, I'd like to try him out at left back. Go with Nasser Jega and Suter there. Right back Tav. Obviously go midfield 2. I would go Raskin, and I would go Joe Rothwell, because I genuinely believe he's going to come good, and I'll die in that hill. I've took a lot of pelters for it, but mate, I'm very stubborn in my ways. And I would go Asgard in behind, Antman out right, Gassama out left, and Miovski up top. And I do believe Miovski is a top player. I think we've won a lot, but he's just not getting any service. That's the only issue.
The last one that I wanted to ask you about, and you've answered who you'd play in terms of Miovski. I just wanted to have a quick chat about the strikers. Do you think Chermity's price tag inevitably means he's going to have to starting games? Now, I don't think it'll be Stevie Smith throwing him in this game, but do you think the price tag, although it's not his fault, do you think it matters? Because I just don't think Rangers going to be paying $8 million for a striker that's sitting on the bench long term. As much as I like Miovski, and he would be my preference, but what's your thoughts?
No, I do agree with that. Where obviously a lot of people have been saying, why don't you go 2 up top? I would like to see that, but obviously tomorrow, that's just my kind of prediction of what the team will be. I don't think Stevie Smith's really going to change too much, nor should he do anything too wild. But yeah, obviously with that price tag, £8 million, our most expensive signing since Tory Andrew Flo. Like, when no firm are spending that amount of money on a player, they need to be a world beater for our standards, really. And you look at
Yeah.
Celtic with Adamida, they spent £9 million on him. Not a bad player by any means, but Celtic got the pants pulled down by Norwich because he couldn't even get a sniff in the team. It was Kyogo was carrying the ship. But yeah, obviously, because of the price tag, you'll need to get a look in. He can't be rotting away in the bench. And obviously, Kevin Thirlwell making that decision, it's just mind blowing. It is just utterly mind blowing. But hopefully, if it's Muscat or whatever that comes in, you'll need to find a way to try and utilise Miovski and Chermiti, because you can't have Miovski rotting away in the bench. You can't have Chermiti rotting away in the bench. So it's going to be a real headache for Muscat or whoever it's going to be. But tomorrow, though, in terms of the game, I think Rangers will actually win. The reason being is because, as I said earlier on, I think Rangers do have good individual players. Stevie Smith will keep it short and simple, and just go out and play football, just have a go. And the players will feel like they've got the handcuffs off now, because you can tell a lot of those players are really struggling in Martin's system. Where I mentioned it off air before we started recording. John Suter was asked about Martin's style of play, and he was like, "It's very unique." That's a polite way of saying it was utter garbage, really. And Suter, I think he was one of the players that suffered the most from Martin's style of play, because
It's not his game, is it?
yeah, he's not a ball playing midfielder, and he was getting literally forced to play the ball out from the back, and he's not a good passer with the ball at all. So I think a lot of the players will go into the game tomorrow. Like, I think obviously the confidence and morale will be a bit low, but it won't be as bad as it was when Martin was there. So I think you'll see a different Rangers tomorrow, and I think Rangers will actually win. I fancy Rangers 2-1, to be honest, Ben.
Yes, I'm going for a 3-1 Rangers, and Miovski to score two. So there you go. But Scott, thank you very, very much for joining me this evening. And again, I apologise to everybody for the internet problems. I'm not at home tonight. I'm at my parents because it's closer to the bus for getting over to the game tomorrow. So that's I'm not on my own internet. So that's possibly why it's going on. But yeah, thank you, Scott.
No problem at all, Ben. I'm looking forward to seeing tomorrow, mate.
Yes, you too. And just a quick reminder to everybody that we will be live on Sunday night as always. The lineup of our star striking podcasters, just like the whole Miovski and Chermiti debate, has yet to be confirmed. However, we will be live as always on YouTube, and again that will also be available to catch up on. And again, just before we finish off, thank you everybody for watching and listening back. And another shout out and our thanks to Forrest Precision Engineering. And we will be back on Sunday, and hope your team wins tomorrow.